Hey, yo, what it do is J Lew
and Bri.
And in today's video, what we're going to be talking about is the highly anticipated Atlanta Season 3, Episode 1. Now, with that being said, we don't want to hold it up, but we do want to say that we will get into spoilers. So if you like watching our content, but you haven't watched the episode, feel free to pause the video and come back to this video once you watch the episode. But with that being said, I'm going to let my fiance explain what we thought about the intro scene.
Yeah, so first of all, we are so happy that the show is back. I don't know how many years it's been. I think it's been 2 or 3.
As y'all can see, my head ain't got
J
long.
Lew done grew out his hair. We done got engaged. I mean, we've been in a pandemic. I don't know. So we're happy that it's back. But in that intro scene, the first thing I noticed, because I'm a very visual person, is that it looked like they were wearing the same outfit. It was a black man and a white man on a boat or a canoe.
Yeah.
And the scene started off, them just talking, having a beer, and it seemed kind of normal. And then, of course, as we know, Atlanta, it took a turn. We didn't know where it was going, but it got dark really fast in terms of the dialogue.
Yeah.
So, that was like my initial thoughts. I had some moments of thinking about Hurricane Katrina because they were talking about a city underwater, black people being a part of that city that's underwater, drowning. So I started thinking about that. And so what were your thoughts about that?
Before he started, they got into the conversation. I thought that he was gonna do a reference to. There's a meme on YouTube where there's 2 people in a boat, and there's this white guy recording a black guy, and the black guy, they're like fishing and stuff like that, and he's like, "Hey, yo, man, like it looks like it drops off," and the dude is like, "No, don't worry about it." But then as they get closer to the cliff, it's like,
it goes down.
No, it don't.
It do go down.
Oh!
That's what I thought they were gonna do, but then it gets into, like Bri said, it's very deep scene, and that's the one thing about Atlanta is it touches on so many different aspects within our society that a lot of times people don't want to talk about or may not be shown on that kind of level. But Childish wasn't playing no games. He immediately,
No.
I thought we were watching like a scene from Get Out. You know, I told Bri, I was like, is this the actual show? Like, what is this supposed to be? And as it started going on, I was like, okay, what's going to go on? And then it instantly is a flash scene to a young boy waking up out of a dream. And my first thoughts was like, okay, is this one of the characters?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out who this young man, this young black boy was. It was like, is this somebody that they're about to introduce as a character? And we're going through their life story. We didn't know what was happening. And just to let y'all know, if you haven't watched the episode yet, if the episode was, let's say, 60 minutes long, 58 minutes of this was about, or 55 minutes of this was about this young black man. So you don't see any of the characters that you're used to seeing in Atlanta, the main 3, this whole episode, except for the end when you see Donald Glover, who in the show is called Earn, waking up.
Yeah.
So,
and that threw me for a loop because it's like this entire time, everybody has been anticipating Atlanta. Everybody's come to love the cast and everything. And they introduce us with a totally new cast, people we've never seen, totally different plot. It's on like a little darker kind of aspect of things that's going on. And then with the young boy, I believe his name was L'Aquarius, and we get into a scene where he goes into the kitchen and he's looking for something to eat, and then his mom is like, they got some spaghetti in there, and he's just kind of like, you know how I saw myself in that scene where it's like, and I don't want no dang spaghetti, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the scene after that was it goes into school where he's in school and they're trying to answer a question or something like that, and then all of a sudden he gets on top of the desk and he starts dancing, and all the classmates, they start cheering him on and go Bri, go.
Yeah. So then he's dancing, he's doing the dances, the nay, the whip, all of that, and he gets sent to the principal's office. And so this is the beauty of this show, like J Lew said earlier, is that they touch on so many things that we experience within our community. They do it so eloquently because, I mean, it's built into the writing. It's very familiar, and that's why we can't unpack every single thing in this episode because there's so much that happens so quickly. And again, because of the writing and how beautifully tied in it is, they can jump from thing to thing, and it still feels like we're in one one space with it. So anyway, but yeah, they go into the principal's office. He gets sent to the principal's office. The counselor is there with him. His mom comes up to the school, and his grandfather. His mom, you know, she's annoyed because she's like, I don't have time for this. I work, whatever, you know, all these things. And I might be skipping here, but what I noticed immediately was how the the counselor jumps in and suggests that he is held back or sent to remedial classes because maybe his behavior has to do with the fact that he can't keep up with the material. And I think that was so heartbreaking, but it wasn't a surprise because that happens to a lot of our children when we don't want to deal with whatever the root cause of their behavior issues are. You know, we'd rather say, oh, something is wrong with them. Or a lot of times that might be the case when they're at a school where there is no one who is an advocate for them. So it's like, oh, let's just hold him back, you know, and she thinks that she's doing something that is helpful to him, when I think the mom, without saying it, and, you know, clearly she's like, these white people will kill you. I think she says it a couple of times. I don't know if she says it right then and there, but I think that ties back into that, because where it seems like they're trying to help, they're not really. So it you know, it's a lot to unpack.
And the one thing I want to point out is, like, I think it was like the principal, she was a black woman, and she was trying to explain to his mother, like, hey, this is what's kind of going on. And the mother, you can see it, oh, just put him in detention. That's kind of like the typical response. And she's like, hey, we put him in detention. And then that's when his counselor, who happens to be a white woman, cuts her off and was like, well, hey, this is my solution. And it kind of shows you that aspect of, like, I think it's referred to as like white splaining, where you have a white person that may be in a position that's even lower than the I guess the principal or whoever the lady was, talking over her and trying to say, hey, this is what we need to do. Like, what you're suggesting doesn't work. This is what we need to do. And it also speaks to the point where most schools nowadays, it's like kids were not made to be forced to sit down. So they typically try to make it seem like if you have energy and you can't control this energy or whatever the case is, then there's something wrong with you. It needs to be put in remedial classes like special ed, when the reality is, it's not dismissing the young boy's behavior, because he is at an age where he should be able to sit down and things of that nature. But it kind of touches on that aspect of them trying to just immediately put him behind, you know?
Right.
And then it skips ahead to like where they leave the office and the mother is mad and she's making him reenact the dance. And she's like, go ahead. My mom put me through the same thing. Oh, you want to be a class clown? All right, do it right now. And it's like he's forced to do
the dances again
without a crowd. And of course, her point was, like, when she stated, all these people are laughing and cheering you on, but like what Bri said earlier, she finishes it off where, like, they're gonna kill you, you know, like they don't care about you, you know, like you're trying to entertain them, like, why are you're not here for that, you know? And then it gets into another aspect where the grandfather comes into the picture, where he really doesn't say anything, not just even in this scene, but almost the entire episode. And he just slaps the boy 3 times.
Very slow slaps.
Like very, very slow slaps, you know, just like, and it wasn't like hard.
No.
But it was still like, it showed that he was only there to discipline the boy in like a physical way. But then we see the counselor like sneak up, you know, like as if she's spying on him, you know, and
the kid.
And it gets to the point to where whenever they walk off, she walks up to the boy and she's like, hey, I'm gonna save you. You know, I'm gonna get you out of there. And we skip to the next scene, which was when they were at the house.
But hold on, I did want to say something that Justin and I talked about, or J Lew, outside of the camera, was that when we do see a black man's presence in, you know, a black child's life, sometimes it is just to be that physical disciplinarian, like how the grandfather was. He's in his life, but he's not truly present. He's not taking care. I mean, we don't know. I mean, from what we can see, he's just there when it's time for a punishment of some sort. And that's true in our society, our culture as well. A lot of times when there is a black man present or a male's presence, and oftentimes there is no male presence. So yeah.
So then we skip to the next scene, and the CPS show up to the house, and then the police are also there, and the mother instantly, she's not mad at the CPS is there, she's more mad at the police are there, and she blames her son, saying, you called the police on me. And then she goes into like this fit of rage to where she's like, well, all right, take him.
She packs his bags and tells him to get out, and he goes with them.
He can't explain anything. He goes with them, and then it gets like that's a whole thing that we can unpack as well. And if you want us to, if there's anything that we're kind of glazing over, just let us know down in the comment section, like, hey, can y'all talk a little bit more about that? But then it gets to the point to where he goes to a new home, and we see that these two white women have become like his parents, right?
Yeah. So he's sent to a foster home. This social worker came to their house earlier, you know, and now he's being sent to a foster home where it's two white moms who are running the foster home. There's already 3 other black kids who live there. And we get into how drastically different they parent and they run their household versus how it was at his own house. This is more similar, in my opinion, to slavery. They seem like slave masters, and these kids, they're dressed like
they put them in some old clothes.
Yeah, they're dressed like slaves,
making them do all of manual labor.
So their chores, quote unquote, is them outside in the backyard, which is kind of like a field, because they grow their own food and stuff. So and they get into, it's so much to unpack even in that. But
the first thing though is that when he first walks into the house, he's like, yo, what's that smell? And the lady's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the smell, you know? And it's like very kind of dismissive and telling him that, and when she starts describing all the things that's going on in the house, I'm just imagining in my head, like, if I was in a house where they're making kombucha and they have all the, I'm like, it would probably stink, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets into a scene where he goes up to his room and he's trying to figure out what things are. And then she brings him a blanket that she's like sewn and all this kind of stuff like that. And that's where the concepts that Bri kind of jumped ahead to is that instead of them calling him by his name, Aquarius, she says, I don't want to call you that.
We have a hard time.
We can't pronounce that. We're going to call you Larry. And he was like, who the hell is Larry? You know?
Yeah.
And that just goes to show, because a lot of times with even our own last names, a lot of people may not be aware, like our last names come from whatever family you came from. And typically it was a slave master, right? Yeah. You know, so they touched on those aspects and those principles. And it's just like they had the kids working on the field doing all this kind of crazy stuff. And to that scene, they're cleaning up, and what did the lady tell them? She was like,
sing.
He wasn't happy about what he was doing, and she's like, why don't you sing a song?
So he starts singing, I forgot which song it was, but it was a hip-hop.
It was a modern song.
Yeah. And she's like, no, sing something about how you're tired of working.
Yeah.
And then she's laughing about it because that's entertaining to her, but it's like, you know, back in slavery days when they were working in the field and they would sing these songs that were like spirituals and things like that. She wanted them to enact that. And
it's like, even though that concept is like, this is what they did back in the day, that's still a concept nowadays. So where it's like most of our quote unquote black culture music is like singing things about us being in the hood and all this other stuff that like, it's like, it's not a
speaks to our
positive
reality.
thing. Yeah, it's like we think that's our culture, and it's like we're focused on these things that we haven't even realized have been passed down to say we need to sing things about how we don't want to work and we don't want to do this, et cetera, you know. So to fast forward though, it skips on to where they go to like the farmer's market and they're going through and trying to sell things, and what happens, the little boy, he sees a cop and he
so because he's trying to escape this.
No, I think I skipped the part where
the chicken
this man walked up and he was like, free he said
wait. Okay. So one of the kids all have on these different signs, like these cardboard signs that the moms, I guess, have made for them. One says free hugs, another one says something else, but like it's all positive stuff.
Yeah.
And a white man?
Yeah, a white dude
walks up to the little black child who has on a sign that says free hugs, and he's like, "Is Hugs your dad?"
Yeah.
Because
I thought, like,
that could have gone over your head. But yeah,
that's the thing about Atlanta is that, like, there's these small little things that they're funny in the moment, but when you really think about it, it's like, it's really not funny, but it's kind of like comedic relief.
It. Yeah, you can miss it if you're not careful. Like,
because so many people say that, like, free so and
so much stuff. Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, so that was like a moment where we like.
And after he said it to him, that's when L'Aquarius was like, man, he took the thing off and he was like, I'm not having it, you know?
Yeah.
And he starts running and he sees a cop and he runs up to the cop, and then another point, the cop is like, whoa, I almost shot you. You know, it's like,
and so that little point, yeah, I know. I mean,
like, I almost shot you, and he was like, man, save me from these white women. They're crazy. I don't like it here. I want to go home. Yeah. So then they walk up
and so they have this. The white women have this presence about them that seem. Well, he was gonna trust them. The cop was gonna trust them anyway because they're white women. But you know, they're coming over to him, to the cop, and they're like, "Oh, everything's fine." Yeah, the cop sees them, and he's like, "Oh, this child is in good hands. You know, he's with these white ladies. Everything's fine. He's just been a kid." Yeah. He doesn't believe the child because of these women. So, and that's a whole other.
Yeah, and then it gets into like I think the next scene is where we totally forgot, man, when they was eating
it was raw chicken.
She was like, what do y'all want to eat? And they start talking about the food. Yeah. And she was saying she was gonna make fried chicken, like that was like what black people like to eat, right? But the way they made this chicken, keep in mind that she took some chicken that was thrown in flour and then threw it in the microwave.
And that's how she.
And when she was asking him, would you want it wasn't
his side options. It was I can't even remember. Oh, she said capers or
something else. And it was just like he didn't know what that was. Yeah. It was just like they kind of like laughed at him and stuff.
And they were like capers. Yeah. And so when you see his plate, it's this raw chicken leg that had been rolled up in flour and microwaved, and then it's a side of avocado that's cut with capers on top of it. Yeah.
It looked like he terrible. Was like, I can't even eat this.
I can't eat this. And for the first day, I don't think he did, right?
Yeah. He was mad, but they kind of painted out that like what Bri stated earlier is that a lot of times white people are shown to whether they have this soft-spoken voice and that because they're speaking in a soft tone and nothing's wrong. And I've literally seen it where people will they'll say foul stuff to you in a very soft-spoken voice, and then when you react the way that L'Aquarius reacted, then they try to say, oh, well, why are you being aggressive, or why are you responding this kind of way? And it was just like he was frustrated that he was like, man, this isn't real food. If I eat this, I'm gonna throw up. And everything that he was bringing up, they was trying to like kind of dismissing it, you know. So we get into like the following scene where another CPS worker actually comes to the house.
Yeah, black lady.
Yeah, and she starts asking questions. And the first thing,
I was gonna say, in this part, we get to see somebody else mirror what L'Aquarius is going through. Like she kind of reflects back to him that his feelings are valid. Essentially, like she asked. So there was a point when he first went to their house where he asked about a washcloth, and he gets into like there's some stuff that's like stereotypical. It's for comedic relief, but it's also true in some cases where they're saying white people use their hands to wash their bodies, so they don't use washcloths. So he's like, "You don't have no washcloth?" And they was like, "No." So when the caseworker comes, something is spilled, and she's like, "Can I get a washcloth?" And they don't have one, so she makes note of that, and she starts making note of. She smells the same smell that L'Aquarius smells, so it's like he's not crazy. You know, these are realities that are true. So, but anyway. Yeah.
So then we get to the next scene where the masculine kind of mother in the in the household says that, hey, can I speak to the caseworker? And then that's like the last time we ever see the caseworker until the next day, where there's like, oh, we gotta leave. They just like, it was like a panic. It was like a frenzy, like, hey, we have to leave. And L'Aquarius, well, before that, it was a dream that he had where he went into the refrigerator and it was like in the jar, her head, the caseworker's head was in a jar. You know? It was like this whole freaky get out kind of vibe. And he wakes up and they're like, hey, we need to leave. And then while he's walking outside and getting in the car, he doesn't want to get in the car. But then he like pauses and stops, and he sees the clipboard that the caseworker had.
Yeah.
And it looks like it wasn't just trash bag. It looks like it was a body bag in the background. And then he's kind of like frozen. They shove him in the car and all that kind of stuff like that.
So that's our theory. But another thing that we love about the show, they help us arrive at conclusions without having to spell it out for us. So all we see for real is a clipboard. We see these bags. We assume that's what happened, you know?
Yeah. And so, she probably didn't get killed. She probably, nobody, that's the thing.
You know,
nobody really knows, but common sense.
Right.
You look close at the bag, you'll see. But then, so it gets into the next transition scene where they're on the road and they're fleeing. And there's one part where they had a conversation, the two mothers is like, why did these people just trust us with these kids? They never questioned us.
Never.
And they get to a point where they ended up getting like 4 different foster kids within a span of like 5 months.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just like the fact that some people, I'm not going to say it's easier because whenever you adopt a child or whatever the case is, it's just not an easy process, but it just showed that for them, they were able to get 4 kids in a span of 5 months with no problem, no questions asked or anything of that nature. And L'Aquarius is starting to put 2 and 2 together. He's like, yo, something about this is off, you know?
And so there's something else that happens, but we'll save that for y'all to watch in the actual show. Yeah. But then fast forward, L'Aquarius goes home and
he gets away and in his escape he's able to go back home.
Yeah.
You know. And
the way that they tie back in, like I guess the way his mom communicates love to him is through her providing for him essentially. Yeah. So when he gets back home, he's like, "Mom, is there spaghetti?" And she was like, "Yeah, there's spaghetti," because a lot of times, you know, in these single parent households that a lot of us have grown up in, there is not this, that is how love is shown. It's like, I cooked for you, I cleaned for you, I worked 3 jobs, you know. Yeah. We're constantly reminded of that sometimes through our parents. That's a reality. Yeah. And so they touched on that in the beginning and the end to kind of bring it back together. And the last thing I'll say is that this episode for me was, it was kind of personal a little bit. I did have a foster home. I went to foster care. I had that experience, not the same as L'Aquarius, but just what it's like being in the system, and also even the points that they touch on with the different types of caseworkers. Also, sometimes there is not longevity in terms of caseworkers. You might see a different one every month. So therefore, like when the 2 moms, there's a point where they're like, what happened to the other caseworker that we usually have? You know, I don't know if they spoke on it without trying to, but they did. They touched on like how the system, even that is broken, or how it's easier sometimes for some people to get foster kids, or that they're doing it not out of love for children, but out of the money that comes with it sometimes, you know, and they touched on that in the episode too. So a lot of that, it could have been triggering for me. Some of it did make me dip into my own experiences, but it was relevant, especially as someone who has been in the foster system. I've also been blessed to be adopted by my mom, and so that's been a whole different kind of experience, and it's been a great one. But like, you do see, I can firsthand say that some of the things they're talking about is definitely real, you know. So,
and the last thing I'll speak on is that whenever the show ended, you know, of course he's like immediately he's washing dishes, and his mom finds him that way. It wasn't like he went to wake her up and everything of that nature. Yeah. And it's like that was his way of saying, hey, thank you for providing a roof over my head, you know. And it just speaks to the dynamic that in our households, we've been raised to think that this is okay. And sometimes dysfunction is normalized to where that's not how a family should operate. You know, there should be some kind of spokenness to it. And people nowadays in society love to point the finger and blame women and say, well, these kids grew up and are raised by the single mothers. But the reality is this show is is not saying it specifically, but it's pointing out that there's no male figure in his life to actually raise him and help the mother So she's having to work and she's having to do all this stuff to where in her mind she's like, well, I can't do this and I can't be there and I can't just put him in discipline. I mean, just put him in detention. And some of the things that she said in the beginning, it's like schools are kind of set up as prison pipelines, so where the kids grow up and you wonder why things happen like that, where it keeps us in this repetitive cycle. And the last thing I'll say is the episode ends, it's like maybe a minute where they show, even probably less than that, where Donald Glover is like sleep and then he wakes up, basically. He wakes up, and at first I was like, what the heck is this show? Like, what was this episode about? You know, but then I started thinking, I was like, maybe these are all the things that he's thinking of as a black man in America. And as you all know, he's a creative, you know, so a lot of times people expect him just to produce. Hey, when are we getting a new album? When are we getting a new show? When are we getting a new comedy tour? Whatever the case is. In this show, because he knew everybody was waiting on it, it was like his opportunity to say, hey, these are all the things that's kind of going on in my mind that I have to deal with before I go out there and I put Paperboy on, you know, because that's Ernest's character, is he's his manager. And it's just like, that was like the deeper thing that spoke to me, is that sometimes people forget that you have a lot of things that you have to deal with as a person, especially as a black person in America. You know? So I like, at first the episode was confusing as heck, but towards the end, when you think about it a little bit more, I was like, I love the fact that they leave it to where it's open to social commentary, you know, to where it makes you think and wonder, like, why did the show take this route? Or why did they start off with the deep scene? Like they talked about the people getting drowned and it felt like something was pulling him and all that kind of stuff like that, you know. So I'm pretty sure later on we'll have more things that come out where it'll explain that, you know. But yeah, that's all I had to say for the video. Did you have anything else?
Yeah. I mean, no.
Well, with that being said, before we drop our review to episode number 2, what we will do is if we get 20 likes, I think 20 is reasonable, right? Yeah. Because we have about 200 subscribers, so that's like 10%. We only asking y'all get the church ties, you know what I'm saying? We only asking for 10% of likes, you know what I'm saying? So if we get 20 likes on this video, then we'll instantly drop it. If not, then we'll wait another week to drop episode 2, because we don't know if they wrote this out because the first episode was so different to where they had to put the second episode out, or if they plan on dropping. Maybe they plan on dropping 2 episodes per week or whatever the case is. But with that being said, it's your boy J Lew
and your girl Bri,
and we hope you have a great day.
Bye.